Hi everyone, this is Chart Sniper, and here we are doing again a weekend review, and this is for the upcoming week, which is August 23rd till 27th. Yeah, I hope you liked my previous week's review, and let's look at a similar kind of setups that we have, look some market analysis that we'll be doing, and then quickly go through some of the stocks that have earnings also. Okay, let's get started. Looking at the SPY or ES futures, you can clearly see that whatever we expected last week, that it's going to be a more or less flat weekend because of the long weekend and stuff. So the candle looked very almost close to it did a lot of drama. It went down quite a bit. It came back all the way up. It's a very good strength shown by the bulls buying the dip, and this long wick is very encouraging. But the body of that this week, last week was completely with the week before. So, in the context of week over week, nothing much happened, and it is above 5 weeks average. So everything looks good there. So when we look at daily, there was a decent pullback to almost 50 SMA, and then it got a bounce. The volume on the dip was huge, and also on the pullback is even better. So it's kind of nullified whatever the bearishness that was there for now. It's good that it's closed above the middle Bollinger Band on daily. But if you look at weekly, all this volume gets added, but there was a above average volume of selling. Okay, so market typically gives a lot of clues before it's going to dump very big. Okay, so whenever these are like pre-shocks before earthquake, right, or after, yeah, pre-shocks mostly. You should consider these as warning signals, and the intensity of these has been increasing, right? So this time bulls came back, but next time when it drops, bulls might not come back. Okay, so we have been going higher. It's been very long without a decent pullback, so we never know when it's going to happen. There was not a big reason for the last week pullback also. So staying cautious and mildly bullish is the theme. And then which stocks you would like to stay long and how much you want to stay long, like account wise, what percentage of the account would you stay long, um, is up to your risk profile and management, but it certainly needs a deeper look on how much long exposure would you like. Most of my current trades that I have in place are delta neutral. What it means is I'm mostly in iron condors or some kind of credit spreads. So it means even if the market tries to start pulling back a little bit, I'm a little bit covered both uh, from a upside perspective or downside perspective. So as long as it doesn't make big moves in either direction, I'm good there. So it's important to kind of adjust your portfolio a little bit into these kind of volatile situations. Okay, so that's about ES looking pretty good. When you go and look at these Nasdaq, Nasdaq was pretty strong. It was a very decent buy again, and as I mentioned, it they tried to keep it within that range of last week. Okay, and all these long wicks shows a very strong buying power. And whenever that buy the dip doesn't happen, that's when you'll see a very painful pullback, especially when you are positioned very long. Okay, and the middle Bollinger Band came to all the way to 14274. Let's go and see what that level is. That is a 200% of the move. So what we are looking at is we are looking at a certain 200% move from this this range, and that's where it is. So if in the next wave of pullbacks, this is a very tight range, right? So it was never able to go back to this range from the last 5 weeks. Okay, that shows that there is some resistance there. There is a clear distribution happening. Whenever the selling is happening, it's happening at a very high volume. Whenever the buying is happening, it's happening at a very low volume. So this is again a preview of how a distribution looks like in tech stocks. Okay, and then if you see the buying, it's happening at a very decreasing volume. So it's not encouraging. So internals also are not are not good, bullish. So it's better to be cautious. And then because next time when the buyback is not happening, you are trying to see a complete down move all the way up to 14274, okay, which probably would be a 5% pullback, okay. And I want you to get into caution mode. I wanted you to get into tactical mode and be prepared for that pullbacks so that your portfolio doesn't hurt badly, okay. So next, let's see the DJI Dow Jones. It also behaved pretty good, bounced back off the 50 days average, and on the weekly chart also it did pretty good. So there is a tight squeeze happening there. So you have to be kind of careful. We were playing for this breakout in using Caterpillar and some other symbols in the Dow Jones, but it's so far holding above that level. So we have to really see how it goes from there. Okay. And the main issue is the small cap. The small cap is not strong at all. We saw a decent bounce, but there is consistent pressure. It's still stay from the weekly perspective. It's still staying in the lower half of the Bollinger Band, and you see that 5 and 8 are pressing it down. So they're acting as a clear resistance, and the Bollinger Band is expanding. So the next stop is 204. Uh, so what's happening is the small caps are not doing that great, and then but a little bit tech stocks are kind of compensating for that loss. So overall, S&P might be staying afloat, but in between within the internals, when you look at it, there is a lot of strengths and weaknesses, and that is the reason why you see the index still going higher, but under the hood there is a lot of changes happening, a lot of weakness is building slowly. Let's quickly look at some of the stocks that we saw last week. Last week we saw Apple. We kind of I highlighted that it will try to reach this 152 level. It did not quite get that level, but it's still staying within this symmetric triangle. So when it pulled back last week, so we saw that this again acted as a support. Okay, so it is still forming that bull flag kind of thing, and if there is strength, if there is one more bounce in the tech stocks, probably it might be able to go higher. But the fact that it was not able to go above that, and the fact that it revisited this level is not showing that positive strength. Okay, so we have to see whether it will be able to go past this resistance again around 149 point through. If not, we have to see whether it does this break and move lower. Okay. O- on a weekly, it's a doji. What it means is there was a clear indecision in the direction. So whenever this happens, it's better to kind of stay cautious and let the stock do the price discovery and make a decision. Volume wise, this negative volume. It's attributed to, but inside that there is a lot of positive and negativity there. But yeah, so they have to crack Apple if they want to take the market down. So as of now, weekly looks good and daily also recovered quite a bit. So maybe it will make another effort to go to that 153 level. AMD pulled back a little bit in last week, and so far it's staying below the weekly middle Bollinger Band. So until unless it claims it moves above that 105.9, it is not bullish yet. There's a lot of selling pressure as you could see in the wicks, and weekly it is hardly staying above the 5 weeks average. So it's still in bullish. I will say mildly bullish. Daily is kind of downtrend. We have to see. So it might go through some decent consolidation. If it goes above 106, we might be looking at it going to 109. So we have to see really if it holds its levels or continue the down move. So next week is very, very unpredictable from market perspective. It can go either way. It has put in itself with the doji. It can go either to upside or downside. Anything is possible, whatever the big players decide. So we have to be cautious. Boeing, it's not looking that great. It's trying to find support at this long-term support line, and also it revisited some of the previous levels. So weekly also it's not able to hold the 50 weeks average. So there is clearly a lot of bearish pressure, and this move last week is pretty big. So it might take like last week. Last time it happened, there was further down move and then bounce back. But at least last time it closed above this 50-week average. So until unless it comes above this 216 level, there's going to be not that pretty. Okay, so watching Boeing here to see what would be the reaction. Caterpillar, it's trying to find some support, hopefully above this previous low. Weekly 50 weeks average is at 200, so we have to see whether it really holds or not. So 200 seems to be a decent support, which it should hold. Um, let's see, but clearly consistent downtrend on the weekly. Last week's bullishness was completely negated by this week's bearishness. Okay, so we wanted it to we have a range here, 200 as support and now 222 as a resistance, and it might do some um, drama in between for some more days. It should hold support, hopefully. Yeah. Chipotle did some decent move on Friday. It's trying to kind of hold the same range after the earnings pop. On weekly, there is room for it to go all the way up to 1953. And it looks like the support is going to be that 1778 and 1830 for this expiration. So we have to really see there is a time Fibonacci time ratio of 821. So if at all it has to make a significant high or start breaking down, this would be probably a good time. If not, we'll be looking at September 5th ish, where there's the time thing. As I mentioned before, coin earnings were very good. So it was unfairly pulled back after the earnings, and now it's slowly making some decent strides higher. And if this move up in volume as the price is increasing is pretty encouraging. So we have to really see. I think it's good if it makes some good decent up moves and Bitcoin is strong. Probably we might be revisiting and filling that gap that is there. So there is a gap. Let's mark it there. So the gap fill level is going to be that's going to be 274.35. So it should at least make an attempt to fill that gap before it gives up, right? So let's see how it goes from there. Looking pretty good. Weekly also looks pretty good. The dip was bought. I think I would stick to coin. Coming to DocuSign, it is I was hoping that it will hold above this August last year level of 290.23, but it's slowly giving it up. The fact that it was not able to close above the 5 and 8 is a little bit concerning. We have earnings coming in DOCU on September 2nd. So far, it's trying to hold that 50 days average, but it was not successful. So um, pullback into the earnings is always good. So if there is a more pullback, then I'll be more positive into the earnings. So shake and bake kind of scenario. So I like DocQ, but the weekly is not that encouraging. 282 is a support, and we have to see how it holds. Okay. Dollar Tree is looking pretty good. It was very encouraging move last week, and there is a clear bull flag forming and potential breakout also on Friday. We have earnings on Thursday, next Thursday, August 26th, and looks like the 105 will be a decent target and resistance. 105, the 200 days average and 50 weeks and 20 weeks average are there. So a quick up move to 105.3 is very possible before earnings. Weekly chart is looking very good, very bullish volume, and yeah, let's see the implied move. I think the implied move for next week in Dollar Tree is going to be plus or minus 6, so which will be taking it to 108, the gap fill. I think the gap fill, yes, the gap fill, hopefully that fills in. Um, Whether it fills and goes, or whether it fills and comes back, or whether even it doesn't even make an attempt to fill, I think that dictates how bullish it is. Okay, we have to see this gap carefully. FedEx, I am very concerned about FedEx, especially the transportation sector. I was hoping that it holds above this critical level, and that also gives a boost to the market, but it clearly did not want to go higher. And weekly is showing a lot of bearishness in it, and that's not good for the overall market. That a strong transport sector is very important for overall uh, future bullishness of the market. But this kind of shows that the market might kind of go lower, and there is not much in between um, 266 and 212. So it's very discouraging, especially for the bulls. We have to see how it whether it kind of makes this kind of completely reverse move next week, or it continues going lower. So transports is not a way to be in this market, and clearly this bearishness is not good for the overall market also. Mastercard is trying to find some support at 50 weeks average and weekly lower Bollinger Band. Clearly not bullish, but hopefully it finds a bounce. 200 days is yeah, it was rejected clearly at 200 days. So the volume also is pretty high. So transports falling, and hope and looks like finance overall XLF when we go and see it. It held strong. Okay, trying to hold that, but that's not a great support as a per se. Um, so we have to be, yeah, transport is just kind of neutral for now. Sorry, finance is neutral for now. MangoDB. MangoDB is sandwiched between the 20 period average and 50 period average on daily. You can clearly see that it did not want to go lower. Okay, and on weekly also it's holding the 5 EMA back, so it looks like a very decent consolidation, and any opportunity it has, it might break higher. So it's a pretty good name that is of very much interest, and it's showing very um, resilience with respect to this market. So whenever this breakout happens, it would be a very nice move, but we need to wait patiently and hope that market doesn't pull back and thereby causing it to come back also. Earnings on September 2nd. Keep an eye on MDB. Moderna, it's trying to do some consolidation here on weekly. It's a doji. There were some selling pressure, but finally it bounced back. It's making higher lows on daily, so that's constructive. We have an iron condor, and let's see how it plays out. As long as it is within this range, I think the iron condor should be good. It needs some more consolidation. Looks like it probably might consolidate by time, then pull back. Roblox earnings dip was bought, and it kind of closed to the above the upper half of the last week's range, but it's resisted by the 50 days average. So until unless it goes above 83, we can't say it's bullish enough. It's a very decent buying pressure there. We have to really see. Above 84, we have scope for 87. If not, it's probably going to consolidate here for a couple of more weeks. Roku. Roku, there was a lot of selling happened, and it is trying to hold above the 50 weeks average here also. It's showing some constructiveness. Here we have to really see how it goes. But if it has to turn bullish, uh, you should try to kind of wait until it regains the 200 days average, which is 362.64. Looks like 336 is going to be support and 362.64 is return of bullishness. Shopify is not that pretty looking on weekly, and that's kind of not an encouraging behavior, closing below 8 weeks average. On daily also it closed below 50 days average, so we have to really see whether it could bounce back and quickly next week and then regain that bullishness. Otherwise it might go a little bit more towards downside. So Shopify, we have to really wait and watch, not looking that strongly bullish anymore. Very similar to DOCU, where it's trying to go below some previous significant highs. Okay, so clear profit booking looks like. Snowflake. It was such a surprising move on Friday. I mean, clearly, I was looking at the open interest. There was a lot of open interest at 250, and the big players were positioned incorrectly into the Friday, and they pulled it back all the way to 250. Probably uh, close their calls there once it hit that level, like short calls they might have covered there, and then they took it higher. Very decent buying candle there, but it's the damage looks like it is done already. So the volume is clearly 13 million, so it's not some retail traders playing thing. Either one big shark would have sold it and another big shark came and bought in right away. So it's almost like someone's trash is was grabbed as gold by other big players. So we have to really see what exactly it means. Maybe there was a clear news leak, something like that about earnings. Earnings is on August 25th, which is Wednesday. So that gave a lot of people to buy the dip at 250. It could mean two things. Because of that dip and advantage and a lot of people buying it, if there is a good news, it's going to go quite high. And if it's the bad news, that's already baked in here with this move. So 247 revisiting that level might act as a support, should act as a support. But if the news is really bad, earnings is going to be bad, then probably it might revisit these levels. But looks like the earnings move already happened. So the risk to the downside is pretty less, but this volume speaks a lot. And I think I'm not seeing volume because they're not 50 weeks in the, yeah, that was a decent sell volume. Whenever that happened in the past, it was immediately followed by a buy candle. So let's see what happens next week. Space. Looks like 23.5 will be decent support, and also it's very coming very close to 100 weeks average. Uh, if that starts forming, then that would be a very setup of, I think I would like to see lower high here, and that is on weekly, so you have to understand that it's going to be a very, very long consolidation phase that probably the space will go through into multiple weeks, probably until year end before the next big move happens. But I really hope that this 100-week support holds, and it will see a bounce back to 30 levels after the earnings sell-off. TDOC showed some kind of reversal on Friday, and it's trying to stay above that low that it made in May. So looks like very constructive. It's forming a very long-term base. Whatever the buying that was done after the earnings is still sitting there, and yeah, hopefully it turns around and starts moving higher. Looking constructive until it doesn't go below 130. Team, it's a beast. The earnings were pretty good actually, and it moved more than the implied move. It's holding that gap like a champion. So what it means is this is a runaway gap. It might not get filled soon, and looks like the way it is moving, it might go higher, probably towards this 370-ish resistance. We have to really see if it would be able to kind of break this level, and if it can, looks like it's not in complete, it's not even impacted by any pullback that happened in the market, so it's very strong. So about 250 we might see 270. So about 350 we might see 370. Very, very strong looking chart. On weekly, yeah, on weekly it was the volume is kind of coming down, and we have to really see, but very strong stock technically. Team Thermo Fisher looking pretty strong. It has met its first price target at around 559, 560-ish, almost met it. It has room to go until 580 and 590 also. What you should like about these stocks is they are not showing any weakness despite the market pullback, or going sideways, right? So whenever the market bounces, these are the stocks that are going to go higher. But it's 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 a good practice to kind of book some profits here at first resistance and then wait for next resistance with only few stocks on the table. Tesla. So as much as I like this stock, it's trying to follow the same kind of pattern where it makes a big move, and after the big move happens, it consolidates like this and then pull back. So this last time there was two pullbacks. So this is first pullback and then bounce. And if we kind of have to trust this pattern holds, then we will be looking at a bounce all the way to 712, and then a decision making happens whether it should go above that or stay below that. Overall, looks bullish about this 38.2 retracement, and we have to really see how the weekly turns out to be. My biggest concern here is it was pretty weak when compared to market, overall market. So that's my problem there. So let me go back to something empty. So what we are looking at is here is unless until it moves higher faster, this looks like a big bear flag to me. So some 900 to 570 and then a bear flag, and maybe there's a good chance that it might roll over. So I don't see any positive news from Tesla that is due anytime soon. I think the quarterly sales announcement also is not nearby, so we have to really see. It if it starts moving down, it moves pretty quickly to 628 and 571, and then does some consolidation. So you have to be very, very careful. Daily looks terrible. This is clearly a bear flag, and a implied move might take it to around 650 or less than that. Okay, so be cautious, staying long Tesla or playing to upside aggressively. The chart is not looking great on daily. On weekly also, it's barely making holding those supports. So until unless there is a big green candle next week, the situation remains same. Um, yeah, 650 should be a decent support. We have to see. TTD holding above the 50 days average barely, and we have to really see if it can continue holding or not. It's below that downtrend line. It actually broke above it but came back below that. So above 78, it's good, but below it's kind of there is a lot of potential for a pullback. So be careful with that. TTD, playing long TTD. It's in no man lands, or it has potential to go down also until it makes a big up move. So neutral on TTD. Alta, Alta was strong and earnings is on Wednesday, August 25th. It was a very decent move, I would say, into earnings, and the implied move for Alta next week is plus or minus 26. So if it kind of stays around 370, we are looking at around 400. No, 370, yeah, 400-ish to upside. These are some of the targets that I have, or come back to that 340-ish, August 27th. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so plus or minus 26 or plus or minus 20 is actually the implied move. So from 370, it might go to 390, which is this resistance. It it gives us a price target based on this authentic triangle breakout higher, and what was the other one? The other one was a cup and handle price target. So I have this price target 378, 388 to upside, and then if it fizzles out, looks like 330 is going to be a very good support for Alta. Playing into earnings is kind of gambling, especially after it rallied for few weeks into the earnings. So be careful with it into earnings. So few more new stocks that have earnings are Palo Alto. It has earnings on 23rd. Is it after market? So I think Monday after market. So the fact that it pulled back into earnings, I like it, and it looking pretty good. Higher lows pattern, and this, if you think of it as a big cup, and if the news and guidance is really good, this pullback would help it go back to those levels or even a little bit higher. So we have to really see how it goes. The implied move is around, I have marked the implied moves to upside and downside. We might be looking a move all the way to 390 to 393, and then to the downside it's going to be 343. So this is what you need to be careful, especially playing long into the earnings. What happens is you might think that it might go higher into earnings, but they have decently pulled it back almost by from 407 to 350 before the earnings. So I think that would be we have a range that we could play in between. So it might be hard to kind of really break about 406 level, but yeah, there is a gap also to fill there. So let's watch what Palo Alto Networks does. The chart looks constructing technically, but last earnings was good. It's decent up move. The one before was not that great. So overall, long term, it had made this big move, sideways consolidation. It's making some sideways consolidation here too. So yeah, room to go all the way to 400 with a downside support at 334. That's what I see, 334, 340. And there is a gap to fill also here. So if earnings are negative, it might fill that gap and try to hold back some of this support. If I can draw a trend line, so we'll be looking at that gap fill around 340 area. Maybe telling that put spread, if you're bullish, around that area might be a nice trade to the upside play. The other one that has earnings is Intuit, and we have earnings of it on 24th aftermarket, Tuesday aftermarket, and this is such a bullish stock. I wish I was riding this wave, but I did not look into that until now. So it's such a strong trend on weekly, and daily looks good. It rallied quite a bit into earnings, but there might be a reason why it's rallying that strong. Because it is rallied quite a bit into earnings, I'm not sure how much upside move will be left in the earnings. The implied move so far is plus or minus $25 into it. So from 550, we might see the 575 or 525. 4 525, yeah. 525 would be a decent support. It pulls back to probably to this previous range. Yep, it was there at 525 last week. No, yeah, last week it was at 525. So it's not a big down move as such. So hopefully this level holds into it even on a bad earnings. If not, we'll be looking at a pullback to this level, which is around 400, 500-ish. Okay. To the upside, implied move is saying that it might go to 575. Why not, right? So after this much long move. So those are some levels for Intuit earnings. Splunk also has earnings, and it is going to be on August 25th. Weekly looking decent, and clear resistance is at 157. Okay, so last week I played for an upside move and it did not work out. I should have gone to a longer expiration, but I played August 20th. But this structure that you see, it's a clear inverse head and shoulder pattern, and it's trying to hold above that support. So very strong looking chart, and on weekly also it's looking constructive. So a move to 155 is very, very possible in Splunk. And again, MongoDB earnings, depending on when they are, might influence this also. Both are into kind of the same area. So let's see what Splunk does. Okay, maybe if this is on August 25th and MDB is on September 2nd. Okay, so maybe the earnings of Splunk might, you can use MDB as a proxy to play Splunk earnings. Yeah. So those are some important earnings that are coming up. So we have Alta, we have Snow, Splunk, and we have Dollar Tree, PANW, Intuit earnings, and also, yeah, that's pretty much about it. So we try to cover some of the stocks. So let me know if you have any comments on this one. I would like to stop it here. So I'm going through a lot of tickers that are in my watch list. Is this the pattern that you will be interested in? Uh, you can tell me what exactly is what that you are looking into the future videos if I make them whenever I have time. So am I going through a lot of stocks? Should I pick only a few stocks that are important for the next week, or should I review all the stocks that I reviewed before also? So let me know in the comments if you like it, and hopefully that was helpful. I would really like these videos to be very short, less than 20 minutes, but I see that it's almost like 40 minutes. So I'll work on the time in future sessions. So if you like these videos and if they're helpful, give a thumbs up. And thank you very much. So you have a great week and stay green. And if you're watching it today, then have a great rest of the weekend also. Thank you very much.